The AJC said they got the scoop on whether or not redistricting was going to happen in Twitter this week. The hell I say. The hell I say. Peach Pundit listeners knew last week when they listened to our podcast episode in advance of the runoffs in the special session that redistricting was probably not going to happen. That's why you're smarter than everybody else, because you listen here. Peach Pundit, the podcast, is a conversation filled with the personal opinions of the people who are participating. Any view or opinion expressed belongs only to the person who expressed it and not with anyone with whom that person is professionally affiliated. Welcome back to what's probably going to be an extra large, supersized episode of Peach Pundit, the podcast. We have a lot to talk about. My name is Scott Turner. That is Buzz Brockway.
Yep.
Buzz, how are you?
I'm doing okay, Scott. I'm doing okay.
I, for the second month in a row, was not in Georgia when the polls closed.
Yeah.
And last time I was flying to Argentina when the polls closed. Had to follow the returns from the airplane Wi-Fi. And this week for the runoff, I was taking a father-daughter trip out to Utah.
Awesome.
And we had already been there for several days when the election happened and had to explain to my daughter, I'm very sorry, dear. This phone is going to be blowing up for the rest of the evening. And we had hiked a lot that day, so she was super tired and went to bed early, which allowed me to stay up late arguing and talking and having a good time in the Peach Pundit signal chat. But man, ran into Kay Kirkpatrick out there.
Wow.
In the hotel gift shop. My state senator. I walked up. I said, you see the strangest people when you travel. She looked up at me like, oh my gosh. So she was out there with her family. That's the thing about special sessions. We book our summer vacations.
Right.
And we don't know the special session's coming.
Right.
And those things are expensive. They have deposits that are non-refundable, and you have all these activities planned.
Yeah.
And we
the national parks don't care if you had a special session.
I'll tell you what else doesn't care is the new moon. If you're going out to go stargazing, the new moon waits for no man. And we wanted to be out there when there was a new moon so we could see the Milky Way with the naked eye. And boy.
Yes, it's a beautiful thing.
If you follow me on Facebook, you've seen some of the photos. I don't post my vacation photos while I'm on vacation. So some people are like, where are you right now? I'm like, I'm in Holly Springs. I did that last week. But we have a lot to talk about because
indeed
the runoffs are over. And boy, were there some things that happened the weekend before that we're going to have to dive into and ask the question why and give you our insights. There's some crazy things happened in the last 72 hours.
Yes.
Before the runoff.
Already this was the wildest, weirdest, wackiest primary campaign season I can remember on both sides of the aisle for all sorts of reasons.
Yeah.
And then we just got the icing on the cake on the Sunday before.
We're going to break down the races, the results. We're going to tell you why we're happy or why we see challenges ahead for the Republicans as they head into November, depending on the race, and what all that stuff means. Get into the minutia of the inside baseball that we know you crave. That's why you come here. Peach Pundit. Tell a friend, recommend us. And what does it mean now that Rick Jackson is the nominee? What does it mean for the rest of the ticket? What does it mean for the Republican Party? What does it mean for the Republican Party leadership? These are questions that we're going to explore.
Yes.
We're going to talk about, obviously, Mike Collins and Greg Dolezal and Tim Fleming and some of the other election results. And then we're going to get into the special session and how we're dealing with the election bill. And we're going to break that down for you. And we're also going to get into why redistricting isn't happening and some of the reactions that we've seen to that online that may be a little too harsh on the Republicans in the legislature. I think Buzz and I are on the same page on that.
I think so.
So sit right there. We'll be right back.
Peach Pundit has an anonymous Patreon who would like to invite you to learn more about the Alzheimer's Association. The Alzheimer's Association leads the way to end Alzheimer's and all other dementia by accelerating global research, driving risk reduction and early detection, and maximizing quality care and support. No one should fight Alzheimer's alone. With your help, no one will. Learn more on their website, alz.org.
Americans for Prosperity Georgia champions economic freedom and individual liberty across the state. They advocate for lower taxes, less government spending, and regulatory reform while mobilizing citizens to engage in the legislative process. Beyond economic issues, AFP Georgia is committed to more choice in K-12 education for all students and removing government barriers in healthcare, like Certificate of Need. To learn more about our friends at Americans for Prosperity, head on over to ga.americansforprosperity.org. Thank you to Americans for Prosperity, Tony West, and those folks over there for being a partner-level Patreon to the podcast. You can be a Patreon too. All you got to do is head on over to patreon.com/peachpundit. Sign up for any one of our tiers starting at just $5. That'll get you access to our Patreon-only Signal chat. And boy, was that $5 really well spent this month by the people who are in there. Great conversation, great insight, funny,
yes,
hilarious. Again, patreon.com/peachpundit. You do have to pay. I had somebody reach out to me saying, hey, I heard I need to be part of your Signal chat.
Yeah.
It's for our paid members only. We do have a free tier. It doesn't get you anything. Doesn't even get you an email. Like, I don't know why people sign up for the free tier. But for the $5 tier, you get access to that. So again, at the very least, click subscribe, send the link to your friends, because you're getting insight into what's going to happen, obviously what has happened, but what's going to happen in advance before the mainstream media can tell you what's going to happen. Because we hear the rumors and we share the rumors with permission. We never out anybody that doesn't want to be outed. But
yes,
you are this audience is the most informed audience in Georgia when it comes to Georgia politics.
So Scott, I had to react. I'm sorry. I've got the U.S. versus Australia on. I'm focused.
You're distracted, Buzz.
US
Take your
just scored a
ADHD
goal.
meds.
US just scored a goal.
All right.
I can turn it off now. I can relax. All right, I'll turn it off.
How many SEC championships does the United States men's national team have? I'm just asking questions.
More than Australia. So. And I love Australia. My stepmother is Australian.
I think there's probably the same number.
Australian is an awesome, awesome country. They're good people.
You know, this is how you get 3-year lettermen to like soccer. Is there somebody that played in the SEC on the U.S. men's national team?
Oh, that's a good question. There have been in the past, I'm sure, because a lot of those college soccer is a thing in the United States.
If there is a member of that team that played at UGA, you will get 3-year letterman on board with soccer as a sport.
Well, the ACC is a much stronger soccer power than the SEC, because now that we're bi-coastal, North Carolina and Stanford are two powerhouse college soccer teams.
2 things 3-year letterman would pick out of that. Number one, buy what? No. and also like ACC is not strengthening your case.
And he'd be mad at me for drinking a Dr. Pepper. So.
Dr. Pepper, Diet Dr. Pepper Zero is number 2 on my ranked choice ballot of beverages. Oh boy, Buzz. Are we Rick Pundit after all now?
Well, I mean, sure. Why not? Why not? He's the nominee. We're going to ride this train all the way to victory in November. How about that?
Yeah. So I didn't warn Buzz I was going to ask him that question, but we talked at length about Rick Jackson's campaign, and it started in early February.
Yep.
And he's 0 name ID and goes in 133 days of a campaign. He gets the nomination against a lieutenant governor that had a pretty solid policy track record.
Yeah. Pretty popular guy.
I mean, we should not be poo-pooing.
No.
Burt Jones.
We said that all along.
Right.
He had A good track record as lieutenant governor.
Right. And I mean, there were some things I disagree with him on, and obviously,
sure.
But I don't agree with anybody 100% of the time. So the primary is over, but it doesn't mean it wasn't without drama.
No.
There was quite a bit of drama, especially in that last 72 hours, as we mentioned a moment ago. I guess the first question is, how did we get here? How does somebody like Rick Jackson, and there's an obvious answer, but how does Rick Jackson go from no name ID to nominee in 133 days?
Well, my theory, and I've said this before, there's two ways to get name ID. If you can do the traditional route, like Burt Jones did, and Brad Raffensperger and Chris Carr, the other candidates in this race, they climbed up the ladder, the political ladder. They got themselves elected statewide a couple times, and they had big name ID. And then you can be Rick Jackson, and you can go buy name ID. Now, notice I'm not saying he bought the election. He did not buy the election.
No.
What he bought was name ID. That's what he bought. He did not buy the election. You cannot buy an election. He bought name ID because voters have agency and voters decide. They heard his message, and 53% of Republicans liked it more than they liked what Burt Jones' message was. And so they went with Rick Jackson. So he did not buy the election, but he bought name ID.
And it cost him quite a penny.
Yes.
Yes.
When he said he was willing to spend whatever it takes, he wasn't lying.
No. And if you've heard us talk about him in the past, he describes his wealth as not his. So he's spending money that he feels like it's not his money. Mm-hmm. And when you have that mindset of, well, I'm not spending my own money and I have access to it, this is how I'm going to spend it because it's not mine.
We should caveat that by saying he if you've listened to his campaign, he believes that he's acquired a tremendous amount of wealth. He worked incredibly hard, has been very successful. He feels called by God to give back in a number of ways, many, many ways. And one of them now, obviously, is to offer himself for service as governor of the state of Georgia. And here we go. There he is.
Right.
Yeah.
The price tag on this is going to go over $200 million just for the nomination. And that's counting what Jackson had in his own campaign. That's counting what Burt had in his, what the other candidates, Raffensperger and Carr, spent on their own races. Yep. And some of the dark money pack, the Georgians for Integrity, which I predict will suddenly become a non-issue. People will forget that it ever existed. There's, I think, an open ethics case about it that was being pursued by Josh McCoon and the Georgia Republican Party. Mm-hmm. I'll be very curious to see how that plays out now that Rick Jackson is the nominee.
Yeah. Well, we got to remember Rick Jackson and his team say it's not him.
Right. I don't know that I really believe that. I mean, until the evidence is shown.
We have to put that out there because they have consistently denied that it was them.
The way I think it has been worded is Rick Jackson says it's not me. I don't know. It came from somewhere.
Oh, sure.
And we talked about this when I put on the tinfoil hat several months ago. Chip Lake didn't watch that segment. Chip Lake, the political consultant that was on the Jones campaign.
Excuse me.
Chip's
on board now, man. He's on board. He has jumped on the Jackson train. So here we go.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people.
We'll get to that in a.
Yeah, a lot of people have, but it does feel like there's a bit of a political realignment happening. Before we get into the political realignment, though, I want to talk about some of the events that happened just before.
Yes.
Because I got pulled.
Fascinating.
I'm almost 100% certain I got pulled last week by Insider Advantage. And we got to give Insider Advantage a little bit of credit because I am so hard on them.
Yeah.
And the reason why I am so hard on them is because when David Perdue was challenging Brian Kemp in his last primary, they were the weekend before the election saying all their momentum is with David Perdue. David Perdue lost by a 52-point margin of victory to Brian Kemp.
Yeah.
So they were way off. And so since then, I have been sort of suspect. But the one thing that they pulled that sort of stuck out, I don't think I'd ever seen this in a poll before, which was, have you already voted? Yes. Mm-hmm. Who did you vote for?
Yes.
So I said, Rick Jackson.
Yeah.
The results of their poll included a 60-40 split in favor of the people who had already voted for Rick Jackson.
Yep. And when that first batch of election data came out, which was early votes.
On the nose. 60-40. Yes. On election night, the early vote comes in first. It was a 60-40 split.
Yeah.
It looked like at that point, oh, this is going to be over in the next 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But something happened over the weekend.
Yes.
And before we can even talk about it, we've got to talk about the President of the United States in the last 72 hours.
Well, at 2 a.m. or something.
And a really long truth post through social post. The president decides to endorse Mike Collins for U.S. Senate.
And the TLDR version of that truth was that Derek Dooley doesn't believe that the election was stolen. Mike Collins does. I endorse Mike Collins.
Buzz is not exaggerating.
No, I'm not.
Buzz read the post, so you don't have to. Distilled it into simple terms that you can easily understand. That set off, I think, another series of events.
Yeah.
Because Mike Collins was consistently pulling ahead. Dooley never led at any point.
No.
And as hard as the governor worked to get Dooley elected, like this guy was showing up alongside him. It was almost like Kemp was running himself. And at one point, the thought had occurred to me of, why can't this guy pull these crowds by himself? Why does the governor have to hold his hand like a kindergarten teacher here? I didn't speak that thought, but it occurred to me. This is sort of problematic when you can't have an event on your own without the governor showing up, and that's what draws the crowd. And there's no question at this point. Brian Kemp, even after this weekend and all this other stuff, we'll get into this too, is the most popular elected Republican probably in Georgia history.
I mean, I've been talking about why aren't all these candidates, why isn't every candidate running under the Republican banner talking about how they're going to emulate Kemp?
Right.
And in the closing days, right? Both Jackson and Jones did.
So there was this ad that was ran in the closing days by the Jackson campaign that had Brian Kemp sit down. We think it was at the Masters for a podcast.
It was at the Masters. Jonathan Martin of Axios.
And it was a long conversation about a lot of different topics.
Yes.
And the podcast host was pushing Kemp. Who do you like? Who do you like? And Kemp's like, you're trying to get me in trouble. I'm answering that question the way I want to answer it, which is I'm focused on Derek Dooley.
Right.
And that was, look, there were all kinds of people running for all kinds of offices that had aligned themselves with Kemp for the last 8 years. And I happen to know that there were many more who loved Kemp and they were seeking his endorsement. And the answer every time somebody would call him was, I'm glad you called.
Yes.
But I'm not endorsing anybody except Derek Dooley.
Dooley. Yep.
We heard that over and over and over again.
Right.
And there was one exception, and that was Will Wade, who was one of the governor's floor leaders, who was running for state senate to replace Senator Gooch, who lost in the lieutenant governor's primary last month. And that was pretty much the exception. There was no other Kemp endorsement.
I don't think there was. No.
So you have, to back up a second, you have Trump endorsing Collins in the last minute. Pretty much early voting was over. And those ballots had been cast. But again, Collins was already leading every poll that we had seen. So over the weekend, the Twitterverse, the social media universe, just gets set on fire with news that the governor has endorsed in the governor's race to replace him and is supporting Burt Jones. you could have knocked me over with a feather.
Yeah.
One, he had been so adamant. I had introduced candidates who were running for office, or at least one candidate running for office, to Brian Kemp, not for an endorsement, but Brian Kemp led with, I'm not endorsing anybody except for Derek Dooley.
Right.
And I was like, well, that's fine, Governor, but I still want you to meet this guy because he's plugged into DC and he does some great things. You should know him anyway. But that's how he was starting those conversations.
Right.
So that's one thing. It's like, what the timing of it.
Yes.
On the heels of President Trump endorsing against your guy.
Right.
And your reaction is, I'm going to now endorse the Trump endorsed guy.
Mm-hmm.
That timing race. What did you think when you heard about it?
Puzzled on it for a long time. And then I concocted a theory that it had to do with the special session. Because what else could it be? I mean, look, in the normal course of things, set all the timing of it aside, Brian Kemp and Burt Jones had worked together. What the governor said in his endorsement tweet was accurate. They had worked together and they had accomplished a lot of things. So it wouldn't be earth-shattering normally that Brian Kemp had decided to endorse Burt Jones, but at that moment, the second bombshell of the Sunday before the election, it caused everybody to scratch their heads. Why and why now?
And it's always been my perspective. Yeah, they work together. Brian Kemp works with everybody.
Yeah.
You can be against him. He will sit down and talk with you. Yep. If you're in the legislature. And, I remember when he was doing his healthcare thing, he called us in, the people that he knew were likely to vote no. He called us in.
Yeah.
To talk with us, to see if he could win us over. Ultimately, he didn't win me over. I didn't vote for it. I had to go outside and scratch my foot or something. But I probably just would have lit it up no if he hadn't called me, right?
Right.
Or he hadn't called me in. But he has had that in him. That's been his style.
Sure.
The inclusive style. And that's, just remember I'm saying that because it's going to be important later in the podcast. So the timing of it was weird, but I know that he's disagreed with a lot of the things that Burt Jones has done more than he's agreed with him. And they've done some good things, but you have to work together.
Right. And maybe the way to say it was Burt Jones was not a natural, when you said, well, when you think around, all right, who's the heir to who's Brian Kemp's political heir in Georgia? You don't put Burt Jones at the top of that list.
No.
That's not disrespect to Burt Jones or Brian Kemp. That's just, they're different people. They got different
There are text messages that have become public where Burt Jones has criticized that he was texting with people saying this guy, he won't call a special session to overturn the election.
Right.
There's been friction. It speaks to Brian Kemp's character, I think, a lot that he would still go and endorse.
Right. He never,
Burt, in spite of all the friction.
Yes.
And there was a lot of friction. It's not candy coat.
Right after 2020, for sure.
Right. Especially after 2020. And I don't think, this is speculation on my part, I don't think Brian Kemp was super stoked to learn that Burt Jones was going to be the LG for the last term that he had as governor. I never got the impression they were super happy. And the governor over the last, especially year, hasn't been shy from time to time criticizing the Senate and some of the things the lieutenant governor have chosen to do.
Right.
Not the least of which was not signing an election bill to fix the QR code.
Yeah.
Again, a topic we'll cover later. So the timing of all that was really strange. But here's what I heard. This is the inside scoop.
As was the Trump. I mean, I thought early voting had ended. Why endorse now, Trump or Kemp?
Right.
There you go.
And the Insider Advantage poll had Jackson winning. So that's all the information that we had out in the general public.
Publicly.
So
yep.
When I asked the question, doing some digging, there are folks who are close to the Jackson campaign who have indicated to me that the Kemp camp had come under the impression somehow that people working for Jackson had somehow convinced Donald Trump to endorse Mike Collins. And Kemp's reaction to that was, fine, I'll endorse Burt Jones,
your opponent. Yeah.
To punish the Jackson team.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know that's true? No, but there were conversations that were had that made the Jackson camp think, oh my gosh, Kemp thinks we had something to do with Trump endorsing Collins.
Mm-hmm.
And if that is true, that's pretty wild.
Yeah.
But this is politics. And there are a lot of people right now who are saying, the Kemp went 0 for 2 in his endorsements then. He lost Dooley and he lost Burt. Oh, he's damaged himself.
Yeah, that's a bad take.
Tell me why you think so.
Well, because, as you mentioned earlier, Jared Dooley got darn close for a first-time candidate, got darn close to...
The fact that he made a runoff against a sitting congressman was pretty amazing.
Yes.
That was because of Brian Kemp.
Yes, so
Jared Dooley would not have done that by himself.
Yes, he got darn close. And the governor's runoff was close. So you got, I think you're going to explain in a moment, but when those early voting numbers came out, it was 60-40 Jackson. That's not how it ended.
It's not how it ended. And this is the power of Brian Kemp.
Right.
There are people in the Burt Jones camp who think that Brian Kemp is toxic, that he's radioactive, that they hate him so much.
Well, and you saw that online among the loudmouths on social media.
Yeah, specifically in the election industrial, the election integrity industrial complex.
Some of them did an about face that would, give you wrench your neck.
And if you follow the Peach Pundit Twitter account,
you'll see some of those.
You'll see some of that.
It was comical.
Yeah, we were doing shot chasers. We were screen capping the before, the endorsement. Brian Kemp is blah, blah, blah. He's
the worst human being on earth to the greatest human being on earth.
Everything from
instantaneously,
from evil to corrupt to pay for play, like all this stuff. There's a young candidate for state house who's in a heavily Democratic seat. He was repeating all of the false talking points that came out of the pay to play. Yeah. And he actually tweeted back at me, hey, I guess I should be careful. Otherwise I'm going to end up in this trend. And I told him, look, we've been watching you and we decided not to make an example out of you because you're young and you can still learn.
Yes.
But be better because Brian Kemp is the most influential person in politics in Georgia.
But a lot of them were negative. And just to be honest, if they have, quote unquote, any consistency within their brains, they didn't vote for Burt Jones because they can't abide anybody being associated with Brian Kemp.
Well, I don't think that happened. And the payoff here is you went from 60-40 split for Rick Jackson in early voting, and Burt wins election day voting 54%, 54% of election day voting went for Burt Jones.
Yeah.
That was Brian Kemp. That wasn't.
And look,
what the Donald Trump endorsement bought Burt Jones was a 60-40 split in early voting.
But we have to give credit to Mike Collins' campaign and more so Burt Jones' campaign, because they actually cut an ad and started running video. They made the most of it. They only had a short period of time, but they pushed it out there to get that message out there as quickly as possible. So did Collins' campaign. Get that message out there to maximize, because it was, think of all the stuff that's going on. Scott, the World Cup here in Atlanta, all kinds of stuff.
Summer vacations.
Right. Summer vacations, low turnout, you name it. A lot of reasons
Storms
why
in South Georgia.
It might have been a nothing burger of an endorsement, and they made the most of it.
Yeah. So as much crap as I give Chip Lake, I had to agree with him. I had to agree with him on Twitter when he said that Brian Kemp has some juice, because we saw it.
Well, he went a little farther, right? He said if he'd endorsed a few days earlier, Burt Jones would have won.
Maybe.
We don't know.
We don't know that.
We don't know, because yes, but the Jackson campaign would have had time to react in some form or fashion, which they didn't have time to react either.
Right.
So
the timing was weird.
Yes.
But the impact you can't argue with the impact.
Right.
Because they had 2 days. They had Sunday and Monday. And by Tuesday, polls closed. Burt won 54% of the votes.
Right.
That were cast after the endorsement.
Yeah.
After losing 60-40.
So it went from potentially being a blowout to being a solid victory, because 54% against a sitting in lieutenant governor is a solid victory. But it could have been a blowout, and was trending toward a blowout if Kemp had not endorsed.
And so now Jackson is our nominee.
Mm-hmm.
Special session starts immediately. We're going to get the special session later.
Yeah.
But I want to talk, before we go to break, I want to talk to you about this. What does this mean for the Georgia Republican Party? Because we had heard a lot. Obviously, there was the Rule 11 waiver. If you're not familiar with that, it allowed for the party to take sides in a primary. Hugely bad, terribly bad precedent.
Yep. Very bad.
But it required our party chair and our committee woman and committee man to sign a waiver asking the Republican National Committee for permission to do that. And they did ask for permission. When there was blowback to that, Josh McCoon, the chairman of the Georgia GOP, was like, "Oh, it's no big deal. It doesn't mean we're going to do it. Just give it, he's the Trump endorsed guy. So why wouldn't we seek that?"
Right.
No.
The RNC chair did too. Well, we don't know. We had no idea where this came from.
Right.
Yeah. Whatever.
But we also heard these rumors that the infrastructure, the official party infrastructure, was actively being used to engage on behalf of the Burt Jones campaign. We heard they were storing their signs so that people could come and get their signs. I don't know if they're doing that for both campaigns. Like in county parties, when there's primaries, challengers to incumbents can put their signs in party headquarters, and it's with the expectation that if somebody comes along and wants one, they can get one there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not without precedent, but we heard all of this gurgling from the party activists who are deeply involved with the party coming to us, you and I both, saying, they're in the bag, man. They're actively working for them. And at one point, I think one of the party officers, I don't know if it's like second, first secretary or treasurer, whatever, one of the party officers was in the HQ, and there's a Burt Jones sign in front of her saying, "I'm making calls."
Yeah.
So it lent credibility to the rumors.
Yes.
So now that Rick Jackson won and Burt didn't, and they were allegedly in the bag for Burt, wink, wink, allegedly, in the bag for Burt, what does this mean for the Georgia GOP?
Well, this is 2 elections in a row where they were not neutral. The party chair and a bunch of the leadership of the party across the state, 2 in a row, because they were hostile under David Schaefer. They were out. They recruited candidates. We know this. They recruited candidates to challenge incumbent, like Chris Carr and John King and so on and so forth.
We've had members of the state committee tell us, at the time, David Schaefer actively recruited David Perdue to challenge Brian Kemp.
So this is two election cycles in a row where the party has not been neutral. The Georgia Republican Party has not been neutral.
It's bad precedent.
Terrible. And then people are going to scratch. Listen, what happened? What was Brian Kemp's response? He went out and started Hardworking Americans, or back then it was Hardworking Georgians, right? That was because it wasn't payback. It was, I don't trust you guys. I don't trust you to be what the party is supposed to be, which is supposed to be the grassroots organization that delivers the votes for our nominees. Kemp said, I don't trust you. He built his own infrastructure, right? Why wouldn't Rick Jackson do the same thing? So
I think it has further marginalized the party.
Yes, absolutely it has.
They can't be trusted to remain neutral. And
it's not payback, right? It's trust. I don't trust you.
Right. They
That's
have proven
what
themselves.
Brian Kemp said, and Rick Jackson hasn't verbalized that. But why in the world would they call up Josh McCoon and say, let's work together? Because I don't trust you.
Brian Kemp told us when we interviewed him for this podcast at one of Eric Erickson's gatherings.
Yeah,
he told us they can't be trusted.
Mm-hmm. And they've done nothing. What the message they've sent is, we will only work for the candidate that we like. The party will only help the candidate that we at the top level have decided we like.
So on the shot chaser stuff, right? We didn't post David Schaefer specifically, but I do want to highlight, though, we know David Schaefer's been a pain in the butt to Brian Kemp since 2020. We know that. And David Schaefer has consistently been on social media criticizing various aspects of the Kemp administration, especially when it comes to elections. And he tweets, this warm kumbaya, he's a great governor. The same guy that you recruited somebody to run against, allegedly. Right. Wink, wink. I don't get it. We talked about on the Signal chat. I brought this up on the Signal chat, so I'm free to bring it up here. There's a guy down in South Georgia who has a budding social media following, Chuck Hand. He's a former congressional candidate. I wrote about him for the first time when he walked off the debate stage.
He's running for state senate now.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And he posted a video that in his own way was humble. It's a couple minutes long. You don't have to watch the whole thing, but the gist of it is, I was 100% with Burt.
Yeah.
But Rick Jackson showed he can fight, and now I'm with him.
Yeah.
Right. And having like a more fleshed out explanation, and then also highlighting the positive qualities of Rick Jackson.
And then an AI generated image of him eating a crow, swallowing a crow.
Swallowing the crow whole. It's impressive. Right. Kudos to Chuck Hand.
Yeah.
And
look, there's been a number of people who have said similar things. I fought hard for, the variations of the phrase, I fought hard for Burt Jones, but Rick Jackson won.
Yeah.
I'm with him now. Let's go.
Yeah. Our friend, Jim Kingston, who's the nominee.
Yes. Very nice post.
Had one of the best posts where he was talking about primaries as a family dinner.
Yeah.
And he really showed his statesmanship in that post. Jim was worried about his own race. He's not endorsing in a statewide race. Obviously, he wants everybody to go vote for him in the general election. So he's not going to make waves during the primary or contested primary, which is what the party should have been doing. But Jim, bravo.
Yes.
Felt like you were the adult in the room.
Houston Gaines
said,
hey, count me in. Let's go.
Yeah.
A number of people.
So when we get back, we're going to talk about Mike Collins.
Yep.
And how he's probably the biggest winner here with the Jackson win. Stay tuned.
Golden Retriever Rescue of Atlanta, GRRA, is an all-volunteer, tax-deductible charitable organization. They are dedicated to providing veterinary care, comprehensive evaluation, and foster and adoptive homes to golden and Labrador retrievers who are abandoned, mistreated, neglected, or left in shelters throughout Georgia. We encourage you to visit their website grra.com and help connect people and dogs that need each other in their lives. You truly can make this world a better place by helping find homes of gold for these golden-hearted pups.
We are going to get to Mike Collins in just a second, but I want to put a bow on the conversation that we were just having, because there's this activist. Sometimes she gives me crap. Sometimes she retweets me in agreement. Her name's Holly Kessler.
Yeah.
And Holly has a pinned tweet that I'm going to ask you to go. Holly has over 11,000, almost 12,000 followers on Twitter. And all she talks about is Georgia politics. So she's a conservative Republican activist. I'll describe her that way. Totally in for Burt Jones.
Yep.
I will also add her to the election integrity industrial complex category as well. And she has this really long tweet, and I'm going to read the part of it that stuck out to me. There were a couple parts, but this one for the podcast specifically. She writes, "To those who are calling for immediate unity, true unity requires grace. Grace means giving people the time and space they need to thoughtfully process what has just happened. Period." I am not going to read the rest of the tweet.
Yeah.
This is the part that really stood out to me. Okay. I am guilty from time to time of spiking the football. And I feel convicted by that. I want to be better than I have been about giving the Burt Jones camp time and space. I called one of the members of the legislature who loves Burt Jones today just to check in on him. How are you doing? And he said, "I'm taking it harder than Burt is." And I feel that. I feel that because I have had friends lose elections where they have been attacked and I felt unfairly. And I still carry a grudge on their behalf to this day. If you hit me, like, okay, that's no big deal. It's politics. But if you attack one of my friends unfairly,
it's harder. And it's in a weird way, it's harder to forgive, right? In that situation.
I fail at forgiveness in this. I still look for ways to mess with that guy. I do. So I feel what Holly is saying, and I want to be better. I don't want to spike the football because here's the truth of the matter. We need people like Holly. We need her followers. We need people who are in the Burt Jones camp to come and unite if we're going to win in November. It's going to be tough. Yeah, Rick Jackson has a lot of money. But it's still not a guarantee that he's going to win.
No.
So in order for us to win, there needs to be unity. And what Holly's just written here saying it's not going to happen right away. Then she has all this other stuff in this really long tweet.
Yeah.
Where she's not really asking for grace. She wants to continue to relitigate this campaign. So
fair enough. Get it off your chest.
Right. Take some time. Right. We'll give you the time.
Move on.
You deserve the time.
Right.
To mourn the loss, to grieve.
Yeah.
But recognize that's what's happening. You are grieving. And maybe right now you're in the anger phase of the 7 stages of grief. Maybe you're still in denial. I don't know. But the reality of it is we do need you. We need everybody to be pulling together. Their unity does need to happen if this is going to work. Georgia is a very tight purple state.
It's magenta. It's a magenta state. Right. We're in between purple and red.
Right. But it could go purple. It could go blue if we're not together.
Right. And what that means is a Democrat has a chance to win a statewide race, including governor.
So here's my message to those folks who've asked for this level of grace. Don't bleed in public.
Yeah. Don't retweet people who say #NeverUnity.
Which is what Holly Kessler's doing.
Yes.
If you're saying that you just need time before you can come around, take that time. We have a little bit. We have over 125 days until...
Log off social media.
Oh, I don't know they can do that. But yeah, that would be a good idea.
But that's what you do, right? That's how, when you feel angry, social media, it makes you angry. I feel it.
Yeah, it's designed...
Put it down.
It's designed to instigate
put the phone down.
An emotional reaction.
Yep.
So
you can mute accounts. You can, on Facebook, you can say, I want to take a pause from this person
for 30 days.
For 30 days, and you won't see that person who triggers you in the language of the day.
I use that all the time.
I said in the Patreon Signal chat, on Monday, I think it was, I'm very glad that the election is Tuesday, because a whole lot of people who were getting on my last nerve, and I was about to go on a defriending frenzy
and
on
if you
Facebook.
Get on Buzz Brockway's last nerve, you've gone a long way to get there.
fight. I guess what it boils down: fight for your candidate. Advocate. Here's why my guy is the best. Ba 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 ba, and leave it at that. That doesn't mean you have to destroy the character of your opponent candidate. And even worse, what really got me was when people doubt the honesty and integrity of people who've decided, looking at the evidence, I'm going to vote for this other candidate who's not my candidate. Therefore, that person must be bribed, must be an idiot, must be a moron, must be corrupt, must be a rhino, must be a whatever.
It probably didn't help that Burt Jones was actually saying that on the campaign trail.
Yeah.
That the only people that were with Rick Jackson were bought and paid for people.
Yes.
Like he bought all these county party chairs and he's bought all these legislators. Like, no. But when you have a following, it probably feeds into that narrative. But if you want to have grace, you have to stop bleeding in public, because when you bleed in public, you are inviting more people to come and argue with you.
Yep.
So if you're asking for the time, give it to yourself.
Yeah. And look, and kudos to the Collins and the Jackson campaigns. I have not seen, maybe I missed it, maybe it's out there. I've not seen anybody spiking the football. I've seen a whole lot of talk. I saw Mike Collins say, maybe it was the next morning. I can't remember. Maybe it was that night on election night. Hey, I've been on the phone with Governor Kemp. Very pleased to say that he's going to help us. I'm so pleased to hear him say he's going to help us in the fall. Awesome. That's Mike Collins being the big person and picking up the phone and calling this guy who just spent a year trying to make sure you weren't the nominee. Pick up the phone and call him. And kudos to Governor Kemp for saying, hey, we fought hard. Now I'm with you. So, and I haven't seen any of social media followers. Maybe I missed it, but I haven't seen anybody taunting or spiking the football or none of that. Good.
To put a final bow on this race was drawn out by the runoffs.
Yes.
Which we know runoff periods only get more vitriolic.
Yes.
More histrionic, more negative. Mm-hmm. That is the pattern. There's very few exceptions to a runoff rhetoric being elevated and not being ultra personal and attacking individual characters as opposed to having policy differences.
Yeah.
We spent $200 million or more getting to this point, fighting each other. The Democrats were over there laughing at us the whole time. Jon Ossoff, who was pointed out to me today, obviously has been taking public speaking courses and coaching, has become a more formidable version of himself than he was 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And they were over there having unity, singing Kumbaya and making s'mores around the summer campfire.
Yep.
While
campaigning
we were
together. Yep.
Yeah. While we were involved in a civil war with one another.
And Scott, there was a poll released. I talked to a person who was involved in setting that poll up, and it showed Keisha Lance Bottoms with a sizable lead over Burt Jones and Rick Jackson, double-digit lead. And what the person who told me said, look, what the data shows us is that Republicans aren't unified, that supporters of Burt Jones were not willing yet to say, yes, I'll back Rick Jackson, and supporters of Rick Jackson were equally saying, yeah, we're not ready to back Burt Jones yet. So this has to happen or we can lose. Rick Jackson can't lose if sizable chunks of Burt Jones voters say #never unity, if that's their attitude. And look, some of it's on Rick Jackson by the way he campaigns and the way he moves forward to rally all those folks to his side. But it's a two-way street.
They have to be willing. They have to be willing to be part of the team. And I mentioned all of this. We're fighting, they're not. They're unified. They're running as a ticket already. They're out there campaigning together. We're still fighting each other to make this one very simple point. Runoffs are stupid. Runoffs are stupid. I get dinged all the time for my advocacy for ranked choice voting because I am told that's a tool of the left. None of the evidence shows that. Just doesn't. I'll argue with anybody and to invite me to your forum, invite me to debate me in whatever group that you want, and I'll show you why this is good for Republicans in Georgia and why it would change all the things that you hate right now about Rick Jackson because he could not have run the campaign that he ran in an ranked choice election because he wouldn't have been the second choice of anybody. You know, he would never have called Brad Raffensperger Judas in his opening ad.
Right.
Because he would have been incented to want to be Brad Raffensperger voters' second choice.
Right.
So all of
it turns out he was, but yeah. But also,
Brad Raffensperger stayed on the sidelines. He didn't endorse.
The flip side of that would be Burt Jones would never be accusing people who supported Rick Jackson of being bought and paid for.
When you say never, maybe he would have, but he wouldn't have been incentivized to do that.
No.
He was incentivized by our runoff structure to run a negative campaign.
War. Everybody is.
Right.
Wage war.
Our current system is bad for Republicans.
Yep.
I agree with the policy goal of wanting to have a majoritarian winner. I think it's more representative.
Mm-hmm.
But the way these campaigns have fallen out, have been the fallout that we're dealing with today and trying to bring everybody together as evidenced in the Holly Kessler tweet. These attacks that she complains about in her tweet there would not have been the incentive in place to attack him that way, to attack, when I say him, Burt, that way. So that's my pitch. Look, I'll talk with anybody. Those of you who think I'm a rhino for wanting to support ranked choice voting.
Yeah.
Here's Exhibit 9 million about why it would have been good for us, because we're spending all this money. You know, thank God there's a billionaire in the race.
Yeah.
Now, because all the Jones campaign had to have exhausted every bit of their dollars to get as far as they did.
Right.
And this brings me to the next topic, which is Mike Collins.
Yeah.
And why I think Mike Collins is the biggest winner with Rick Jackson being at the top of the ticket. Because Rick Jackson's going to spend whatever it takes, he's told us that, to win.
Right.
That can only help Mike. It would not have been a situation with Burt. Burt doesn't have the wealth. It comes from a very wealthy family, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I was a member of the Jones family. Like, that life would be easier. No way around it. They're very wealthy, but they're not billionaire wealthy.
Right.
And there's a major difference when you can go and drop $250 million into a political cycle on your own behalf, because that tide will lift all boats.
Yes.
And so I think Mike Collins has a way better shot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it'll happen.
Right.
But he has a way better shot with Rick Jackson at the top of the ticket, organizing to get out the vote, reaching out to Republicans, make sure every Republican voter in Georgia knows they got to go vote, make a plan to vote, and then follow up and make sure they voted.
Yes. Because Rick Jackson will be saying, and vote for all my friends, Mike Collins, Greg Dolezal, so and so on and so forth.
Right. And that's why that's the gist. You had anything else you want to add there? Because we got to talk about the Ossoff reaction to the runoff.
That absolutely makes sense. I think you're right. I agree.
Ossoff wasted no time.
Yeah.
So there was an ad that the Ossoff campaign had that rolled out immediately, attacking Mike Collins. And weirdly, he attacked Mac Collins, Mike's father. And Mac Collins is still beloved by people on both sides of the aisle because he was a statesman. And weirdly, Ossoff was attacking Mike for being a Nepo baby, which Nepo babies attacking Nepo babies is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like glass houses and such.
Right. Sure. Mike Collins benefited from his father's political name ID. Right. He didn't inherit wealth from him. Mike Collins built his own trucking business. Right. So, yeah, that's a strange attack.
I don't know if it was inheritance there or not, but
yeah.
But attacking Mac was odd.
Yes.
But if you are a listener to this podcast, we told you months ago now that Brandon Phillips, the erstwhile chief of staff for Mike Collins, would appear in the form of a mugshot in the ads. And lo and behold, the very first ad rolled out by the Ossoff campaign included a mugshot of Brandon Phillips, the very first salvo in the general election campaign. This is the part of the podcast where I get to say, If only someone could have known.
There you go.
I have been criticized.
Good job, Scott. You're 58 minutes in before you said that. So.
I have been criticized by some for making too big of a deal out of that. I have been told it's not going to matter, and maybe it won't. I think it matters less now that Rick Jackson's at the top of the ticket. But it matters. It absolutely matters. And the criticism of Mike going forward is going to be the only time that you decided to let him go is when he became the ultimate political liability. And that guy is going to be featured front and center in a lot of the campaign rhetoric we see for the rest of the summer. If only someone could have known. It doesn't mean Mike Collins is completely handicapped by it. Mike Collins has a record, obviously, that he should be proud of and can run on. I think the Lake and Riley Act, tremendous piece of legislation. First bill gets passed under the second administration of Donald Trump. He has some things to be proud of. What do you think happens now with the Mike Collins Ossoff? And also the Mike Collins response. Tell me what you thought of it about that.
I assume you're talking about the ad. It was a biographical. The ad I saw was the video I saw was a biographical ad of Mike Collins introducing himself to a wider general election audience. I liked it. I like that.
And I
ignore
always,
it. Ignore. Ossoff wants to be petty and bitter. Ignore it and go tell the people of Georgia who you are.
Right.
For now. He'll fight back, I'm sure, at some point. He will hit back. But, yeah.
So Jackson and Collins are singing Kumbaya. I saw a social media post today coming out of the Collins campaign. I'm endorsed by Rick Jackson. And that's the way it should be if you're on the same team.
Well, if the Democrat, if Ossoff and KLB are going to, it's kind of Ossoff is trying to lift up KLB and drag her across the finish line.
Talk about an anchor.
Yes. It could backfire. If that could backfire, it absolutely could, because her record, Mike Collins has some things to be proud of. Rick Jackson, has a great biographical story.
And a political blank slate.
Jon Ossoff has some things he can point to as well that voters will like. KLB, not so much.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing. There's nothing there. She is the empty suit of this election cycle.
Yeah. Well, worse. She's the failed administrator of this election. So bad that nobody wanted her to run again. So she didn't.
For the mayor's office.
Yes.
Yeah. We will see ads of Atlanta on fire from 2020. That was where she called police officers murderers.
Yep.
And
had them prosecuted.
Attempted
to prosecute them.
Yes, and tweeted things
at her
like
direction.
It's time for revolution. That is going to be all over your screens. If you thought you're getting away from political ads just because the primaries are over, allow me to be the bearer of bad news.
There's a slight reprieve. It's the pause before we're in the eye of the hurricane at the moment, and the other eye wall is coming.
Yeah, I made this a segment on a podcast 2 years ago, where I said I was critical of Chris Carr for starting the campaign season too soon. I felt like I think I said something along the lines of, I feel like I need to go to a therapist and point on a doll of where Chris Carr touched me, because it was too soon. Like, we can't be starting this already. This is killing me. And it was something like 15 days after the last election.
Yeah.
It's like December of 2024. Where he kicked off his campaign for governor. I was like, oh my God, why are we doing this now? I'm begging both campaigns, can we wait until the 4th of July? We're in this really patriotic 250th celebration of our country period. We have
Freddie the German and
the Tartan
and all
Army.
Of they have lifted spirits of regular Americans all over this country and befuddled the people on CNN that Southerners are actually nice folks. Let's bask in that for a few weeks.
And it's not just Southerners. The Tartan Army is in love with Boston.
Yeah, in Boston. Yeah, and they're running out of beer.
Yeah, I saw they're posting things on social media like the cops up there juggling soccer balls.
Yes,
and
everybody's having a great time.
Yeah, can we just celebrate for a while here?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that'll go to, Holly's call for, give us some time.
Yes.
Let's please. This is like the biggest 4th of July of my lifetime.
250.
Right. And being in the national parks last week, I'm going to show you this is great. This is my national park pass I purchased. Yeah. And, there it is. Donald Trump and George Washington. America the Beautiful, my annual national park pass. But it's the logo in the lower left-hand corner.
Yes, the 250.
America 250 that's everywhere right now. Let's celebrate that.
Yes.
Before we start campaigning. But we do have to talk about more campaigns, unfortunately.
Yeah.
There is a nominee for lieutenant governor.
Yes, we have one now.
In the Republican Party.
Yep.
That is our former colleague. He was served in the Senate, also a former campaign donor of mine. I don't know if he will take my calls right now. I'm sure he will. He's a good guy. And honestly, in Unity, he needs my vote in November as much as anybody's, I suppose. Greg Dolezal. Senator Greg Dolezal. This is we talked a little bit about the realignment of the Georgia Republican Party. This is going to be one that trickles down. And before we go to what would happen if Dolezal actually wins in November, he's got a pretty significant challenge ahead of him because Josh McLaurin won the Democratic primary. I wonder what it's like to be Nabila Islam Parks these days. No, I don't. Actually, I don't wonder that.
She took a beating among a lot of Democrat activists for that her decision to resign and force a special election in her Senate seat. Unfortunately, we didn't pick that up. My man Azaz didn't get across the finish line.
Well, they freaked out, right?
Yes.
The Democrats freaked out, and there's a lesson to be learned by the Republican Party here. Because it was the party structure that came in and started going door to door chasing ballots.
And Ruhr Roman, who won that nomination for that, not for the special election. We described that last week. It's a complicated, bizarre thing. We've got a placeholder Democrat who's married to one of our county commissioners, which is fine, whatever. She won't do any. There's nothing because she won't be sworn in time because this special session is going to be done before she gets sworn in. But
again, special session segment is coming up on the horizon. This might be a good time to tell you. We did warn you at the beginning of this. This is going to be a supersized episode. You don't have to listen to it all at once.
This is your supersized Big Mac episode.
There's so much to cover, and we're not, Buzz and I both, Jason Shepard, all of our bloggers. We have a post from Mac Parnell about the election results on the blog. I know that we're traditionally a blog. You can go read stuff in bite-sized chunks. We're just too busy right now.
Yes.
To write.
Hope that change. Yes, we'll do better.
We get through this summer, I'll have more time. But this summer activity, I wasn't expecting a special session. We've got conference season for the day jobs where there's lots of travel, business travel. Yeah, if you follow us in our professional lives at all, if you're in those networks, you know what this is like during the summertime. It's where we go and get our ideas to go and make things better when the legislative session comes along. So we have work to do. And so we're not doing a lot of writing on the blog. Bite-sized chunks of this podcast. You'll thank me if you follow that advice instead of listening to this all the way through. But let's talk about the matchup.
Yes.
Dolezal versus McLaurin.
I mean, look, two really smart guys, two guys who care about policy. Both of them absolutely care about the nuts and bolts of policy and two excellent debaters. I mean, that, Scott, when they get around to having the Atlanta Press Club debate for these two guys, it's going to be must-see TV. It will be awesome to watch these two guys lock horns.
Yeah, it's going to be must-see TV for us nerds, Georgia political nerds. I served with Josh. I consider Josh a friend, actually.
Yeah.
And I'm not voting for him.
Right.
But I said this, I was on the Atlanta News First On the Record show, which I'll be on again this Sunday. But I was on it a couple weeks ago, and they asked me, who do Republicans want to see as the Democratic nominee for lieutenant governor? Without hesitation, Parks.
Yeah.
We don't want any part of Josh. He's very smart. And if somehow he should win, he has the ability to work with people enough to make them think like he's not that bad. And that is a scary proposition.
Yes.
Now, we know he won't get the gavel because we know that the Republicans are going to maintain the majority in the state Senate.
Right.
Which brings us back to Greg.
Yeah.
Because Greg was only endorsed by 3 senators that were his colleagues. And I guess 1 didn't endorse at all. All minus a handful. The exact number, but I know 2 of the
and a bunch of several House members.
Yes. So you have a lieutenant governor nominee who won. Frankly, let's give Greg credit. His campaign was far more active. He worked a lot harder.
Yep.
By any objective measure, mail pieces, social media ads, text messages. Oh my gosh, the text messages. He was putting his name in front of voters on a down ballot race as much as he possibly could.
Yep.
I did not love his campaign.
It's not the Greg we know.
That's not the Greg. The Greg that we know is not reflected in, which is heartbreaking for me. But because I do believe Greg could be great.
Yeah.
I do. I believe he can ascend to greatness. But he has a relationship problem. Chuck Hufstetler, Jason Dickerson. I don't know who the third is off the top of my head. It doesn't really matter. Those are basically the 3 who endorsed Greg Dolezal. Chuck Hufstetler has been finance chair. Dickerson is brand new. He served only 1 part of this biennium because he replaced Brandon Beach when Brandon became the U.S. Treasurer in a special election.
Right. Yeah.
So you have these guys who are the base of support. Flashback to when Jeff Duncan, and I know I said I wouldn't talk about him anymore, but this is important. I'm highlighting a point here. Jeff Duncan became lieutenant governor. He was not known by the people in the chamber.
Right.
He was that outsider guy.
Yeah.
Who senators sort of have
it's a club.
Yeah. And if you're not a member of the club, it's almost arrogance is not the right word, but
let's just call it's an exclusive club. How about that?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Arrogance is not the right word. Club is probably more accurate. And if you're not a member of the club, how dare we give you the gavel?
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean that just because you're a senator, you're part of the club.
Right.
And this is what Dolezal is going to have to navigate if he wins in November. So my question to you is, will they even give him the gavel? Because, I mean, I've talked to senators one-to-one and in small groups, and they have told me they just don't like the guy.
Yeah. And look, he's got work to do. If he hasn't already, he should start right now. Not lobbying for the position. I would not right now if I were him. I would just, hey guys, we served together. I need your help to beat Josh McLaurin. Let's bring everybody together. That kind of work, I think, and just kind of lay the groundwork for that. And then as you get close to the election, because, these caucus meetings and these sorts of things, this decision will be of what the relationship between the Larry Walker and the moving on down and Jason Advitardi and the caucus is, what power they give the lieutenant governor will be decided very quickly after the election. So you got to start laying that groundwork now, and the work has to begin now. Jeff Duncan didn't have that luxury because nobody thought he was going to win. And there you go. So he's got to work at it now, and he's a super smart guy. And here's my plea and my free advice to Greg. You got to take the edge off. You got to take the edge off, and you got to talk about how we're going to work with Rick Jackson, and we're going to work with Speaker Burns, and these 3 entities are going to get great stuff done for the people of Georgia.
Yeah. I've heard senators describe him as a bully when they disagree. And yeah, you can govern that way, but there's a concept called diminishing returns.
Yeah.
You might get 1 or 2 things you really want, but if you're going to be there for any length of time and have any type of influence over the long haul, it's going to be a harder time in office. And the thing that saved Jeff was exactly what you talked about. He went to key members, and I remember this. There was a huge debate because that biennium, which is the gathering in December in Athens, where both chambers of the legislature in a bipartisan way come together to talk about what's going to be laid out for the next 2 years policy wise. We hear from policy experts from across the board on a whole different set of issues. But I remember walking into a restaurant where Duncan was there with a bunch of senators and he was making nice.
Yeah.
Because it was an open question whether or not they were going to give him the gavel.
Yep.
And what I mean by that is he going to let them run the chamber?
Right.
Because Larry Walker has just proven this past legislative session that he's more than capable of running the chamber.
He got a lot of experience this session running the chamber.
Right. And that's what the lieutenant governor does.
Right.
Traditionally. But there have been times, Mark Taylor, who was in the minority party when the Republicans took over the majority, they stripped him of that.
Yep.
And for a while, they stripped Casey Cagle of that because of some things that Casey Cagle had done that were repugnant to the rank and file members.
They can do it at any time, quite frankly.
Yeah. And if they get enough of them upset, right?
Right.
So the question, I guess, becomes like right now, Matt Brass has enjoyed 4 years of being rules chairman. What does this mean for Matt Brass? Right.
Well, you cut a deal. If you're Greg Dolezal, all right, let's sit down and talk, Matt. How can we?
Right.
But I think you start with Larry Walker and you start with Jason Anavitarde.
Yes.
And you say, guys, let's work together here.
Randy Robertson.
Yep.
Sean Still.
Yep.
Kay Kirkpatrick. All the other members of leadership.
And then all your committee chairs, and you start cutting deals. I mean, you may not like this. You may think, well, this is the sausage being made that, purists out there don't like, but this is how things get done. And this is how it's kind of all these individual negotiations that Greg Dolezal needs to make with all of these senators. But he can do it.
It's an open question, but it's up to Greg, I think. And how he handles it between now and November is whether or not he'll have the gavel. Shout out to Will Wade.
Yeah.
Will Wade's opponent was heavily supported by the Georgia Trial Lawyers Association. They tried to make Will Wade seem like a big liberal because he supported the governor's tort reform initiative as floor leader. They tried to say Will Wade was a career politician. Okay. I know. Listen, guys, I know it's popular and maybe I'm talking to the wrong audience, but I know it's popular in political campaigns to claim your opponent is a career politician. I think at one point, the political consultant for Wade's opponent had listed the number of days he'd been in office. You serve 40 days a year in a legislative session.
Right.
You get paid pennies. You lose money. Ask me how I know.
Yes.
Being in office as a state legislator.
Yep.
And it costs your family time. Like right now, people should be on summer vacations. They're in a special session.
Yeah. With nowhere to stay. I don't know where they're sleeping.
Right. They're working on Saturday.
Yeah.
As we record, it's Friday. They'll be in session tomorrow in order to get out as fast as possible. They took today off because it was a state holiday for Juneteenth. And then Sunday, they would have worked Sunday, but it's Father's Day.
Yeah.
So they are blitzing through this thing because they don't want to be there.
Right.
They have to be. We'll get into the special session in a second. Coming up, bite-sized chunks. But to say that Will Wade is some sort of career politician because he's served for, 6 years now?
Yeah.
Six years as a state house rep. Honorably.
He was on his school board for a certain period of time.
Oh my gosh, he was on school board?
I know.
Oh, these career politicians.
Thankless job that pays pennies.
And nothing but downside when you're on school board.
Yes.
It is a thankless, terrible job. I've actually had friends of mine come to me and say, I think I'm going to run for school board. And I said, do you have any other political aspirations? Well, yeah, I think I'll eventually maybe run for the legislature or maybe I'll run. No, you won't.
Yeah.
It is pretty rare what Will Wade has done going from school board to the legislature. It does happen, but it's rare because school board is where political careers go to die.
Right.
It is not something you do because of your own personal ambition. It's because you want to serve your community. And this idea that just because somebody's been in office, 2 different offices for 1,000 days or whatever the ad was, is just so silly to me.
Yeah.
And it's not like Will Wade has sat in office for 40 years like Calvin Smyre did.
Right.
He's there for 6.
Right.
And has a pretty darn good track record.
Yep.
That he should be proud of. So I've just come to terms with this, right? And I've said this to you and others. I just think I hate political consultants because they create these narratives.
Yeah.
And in order to help their guy win, and they're assassinating the character of good people.
Right.
Which will bring me to the last race that we'll cover here. And no, it's not Richard Woods. Buzz is going to write a blog post about Richard Woods, so you can go read that later. We'll spare you my lamentations about Richard Woods. And that is the Rob Ackerson versus Jon Cowan runoff in the 11th Congressional District. And I've not hidden my allegiance here.
Right.
If those who are watching in the video, I still have my Ackerson for Congress sign behind me. I actually asked Rob to run for that seat. What was interesting to me is I would later learn that Jon Cowan, who had previously run in the 14th district, lost to Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's where he lives. Mm-hmm. When he decided to run in the 11th, he had been making calls to people in D.C. asking if he should hire Rob Ackerson as his chief of staff. Mm-hmm. And that little nugget right there will inform you as to why I'm feeling like Holly Kessler about Burt Jones right now. Because Jon Cowan spent at least $1.5 million, maybe more of his own money, assassinating the character of Rob Ackerson. And I've talked about it. I've made some short videos about it, posted on the social media for Peach Pundit. You know, I met Rob Ackerson 15 years ago. Rob had a rough time in his 20s. It's 30 years ago. But if you listen to Jon Cowan, he made it seem like it was yesterday, that the 20-something-year-old version of Rob Ackerson was the guy who was running for Congress, and it wasn't the same guy. Okay. And I know it's politics, but I'm going to reiterate, when you slap me around politically, I'm much more forgiving. But I'm not forgiving when you attack my friends. And so I just want to remind Jon Cowan, you spent all that money to make me your constituent. And I hope you get what you pay for. I am not happy about it. I'm not happy with the way he ran his race. It started with a broken promise that he would never run anywhere else other than the 14th. He had the opportunity to go run in the 14th in an open seat. He chose not to. Mm-hmm. He deleted 4,000 tweets. Maybe I'm bleeding in public here. I'm not over it. I need to get over it. I know I got to get over it. I feel like Holly Kessler on that race. So, Holly?
Yeah. And look, Rob, you're a much closer friend to Rob than I am. I consider Rob a friend too. He's a good guy. He would have been a great congressman. So let's see. I hope Jon Cowan is too, because the people of that district, they expect a certain type of, Republicans especially, expect a certain type of member of Congress to vote certain ways. And so Jon Cowan should know that. He's a smart guy. He needs to know that and do that.
My only social media post on this has been, I would like to remind Jon Cowan that he spent all that money to make me a constituent. I have typed out a bunch and deleted them.
Good. That's wise. That's wise counsel that you gave yourself there.
But yeah.
Or maybe your wife gave you. I don't know.
No, it was just cathartic to write it out.
Yeah, because I typed some things the other day, and I said, Krista, should I? She goes, no, you shouldn't. I didn't even tell her what it was or what I was going to say. So it's very witty and funny. No, don't do it. And she was right.
Yeah. The wisdom of wives.
Yes.
All right. Special session.
Yeah.
Burt Jones folly. Sorry, I'm spiking the football. This special session was caused by the failure to call SB 214 for a vote. SB 214 would have fixed the QR code. Fix is probably too strong of a word. It would have allowed for a responsible timeline for the legislature to put together a plan to remove QR codes from tabulating ballots.
Mm-hmm.
There is a special election happening it's going to kick off within days, which is why we have to have the special session to do it now.
Yep.
SB 189 passed a couple years ago. There is a blog post that explains what the fix will do. And I explained a little bit about how we got here in that post. So I'm not going to belabor the point. We have to have a bill passed before July 1st, which is why the governor gave them until the primary was over and called them into special session immediately, because he recognized that has to be fixed. There were bills to fix it. There was a bipartisan bill that would have fixed it. When I say bipartisan, both Republicans and Democrats voted for it in the House. Mm-hmm. There was a Senate version that was simply partisan that wouldn't get it. It would not have passed if it had been called for a vote. But the bipartisan one that passed out of the House on sine die, SB 214, would have passed if Burt Jones had allowed. Now, special sessions cost, at a minimum, $300,000 in per diems that are paid to the legislature. Yep. That's at a minimum. It doesn't include all the other staff that has to be brought in, because none of those people work full-time jobs. Not none. A lot of them don't work full-time jobs at the Capitol. You've got to bring in staff. You've got to bring policy folks. I have to go work tomorrow down at the Capitol. They don't pay me taxpayer money. I don't get any taxpayer money. But the machinery of the legislature has to kick back into gear. That costs $300,000 because one guy didn't want to have a vote. And here's the truth. Here's the absolute truth. This is a message to the election integrity industrial complex. We are here today spending all this taxpayer money and having this special session because Burt Jones wanted to make Brad Raffensperger look bad for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Not this year. For the last 2 years, because he perceived his biggest threat to the nomination was Brad Raffensperger. Brad Raffensperger went to the legislature on many occasions, and he said, if you want me to fix this issue, we need to upgrade the machines. We need to update the machines.
Right.
The software package that is currently on our machines only allows for the QR code tabulation. They have to be upgraded. That takes time. You have to hire the people to do it. That takes money.
Yep.
The Secretary of State doesn't have the ability to appropriate funds from thin air. The legislature has to act. The reason the legislature didn't act, gloves off, is because of Burt Jones wanting to have a political hammer to beat up Brad Raffensperger. If you disagree with me on that, call me, email me. We'll talk about it. But I was there.
Yep.
And it's one of the reasons why I voted for Rick Jackson. This situation should not have happened. Our election officials should not have been in this position where they had to ask questions. The state election board should not have been put in a position where they were asking themselves, what do we do about this? This is a crisis. Now, what have I talked about in all of this, Buzz? I've talked about the election bill.
Right.
We haven't even talked about redistricting.
Right. Because
that's not a crisis.
Right.
And we'll get there. I promise. Bite-sized chunks. We're still on the election bill. Now that we know why we're coming in for this, and the absolute bonfire of a crisis that has been caused by David Scott's death and this special election that's going to kick off in just a few days, they need a way to run the elections. And those counties that are represented by David Scott's previous congressional district, they don't know what to do right now. So there has to be some sort of fix in place today.
Yeah.
In order for them to do that election. And not for nothing, But for those people like, oh, they don't need a ton of time. What have they been doing for the last 2 months? Before that even.
They've been a little busy getting ready for an election and running an election and a runoff and special elections all across the state.
Right. They've been doing their day job.
Right.
They don't have an off season right now. You cannot possibly expect them to implement a brand new system by July 1st, which is 12 days from now.
Yeah.
It's impossible. You can't expect them to put a new process in place by then.
Right.
When they're getting ready to certify the runoffs.
Yep.
Like all their time is on that. These are people who are election administrators who are cash strapped. They are not, they're running on shoestring budgets.
Right. Because counties, every time there's a special election, for example, counties have to come up with that money. Right.
Yes.
And most counties around the state do not have large staff in non-election years. They have to gear up for that for a year for an election year.
Yes. So here's what the bill does. Max Burns, who is being attacked, because I posted about his bill. I know he's being attacked because they're attacking him in my social media, not my social, the Peach Pundit's social media. I guess it is mine. But they're attacking Max for introducing a piece of legislation that does 3 big things. And the first thing it does is it punts the date. Now, this is where activist / state election board member Sally Grubbs gets sideways because she says it does nothing to help elections this year because the QR code is still on the ballot. Essentially, it leaves the system in place that we use today.
Right.
Go read my post on SB 3EX. That's the bill. It breaks it down for you. I also point out that for my day job, I have written and published a paper that explains the weaknesses in the current system and the mitigations that Georgia has put in place. It's not a perfect system. There's no perfect election system.
Right.
Every election system that we have, there have to be mitigations to limit and reduce risk.
Right.
But if you listen to the EIIC on social media right now, they are beside themselves because they're presenting it as a bill that will replace the current Dominion machine with another vendor who does the same exact thing.
Yeah.
And the bill does nothing of the sort.
And not just folks on Twitter, right? I mean, this morning.
Read that.
I'm kind of disappointed. I'm very disappointed. James Magazine online, they have if you're familiar with them, they have what they call floating boats where they identify various things and people that are sinking or rising or drifting. So I won't read it all, but that they accuse Senator Max Burns and say what's the rush? The House and Senate are agreed on this. We need hand-marked paper ballots, blah, blah, blah. Given this division, why rush to consider a new voting system now? Are proponents trying to ram through a sweetheart legislation favoring some electronic vendor? And what will they do about removing the unreadable QR codes? Drifting.
Listen,
I haven't read the bill. It's not my job to read the bill.
I read it.
I've been doing my day job. I also haven't written about it either, like James Magazine just did.
Well, I wrote about it.
Yes.
So the title of my article is "The QR Code Fix We Deserve and We Need." And just because it's pushing the date of removing the QR code from tabulating doesn't mean that we're abandoning that policy goal. The bill does not do that. It says, look, we can't meet that goal of July 1st, but we can by 2028. Section 7 of SB 189, which goes into effect on July 1st as we speak, it doesn't have a plan. But Max Burns' SB 3EX does have a plan for how to identify the system that will replace the Dominion machines that we use today. And so it creates a commission. Essentially, Brian Strickland called it in committee on Wednesday a study committee.
Yeah.
And it's made up of appointees by the governor, lieutenant governor. What it doesn't do is allow the current Secretary of State to make the call. The current Secretary of State, one parting gift from the legislature.
Or the new Secretary of State.
Well, The new Secretary of State does get involved later, but maybe not make the call. But they will set the policy. They have not in SB 3 EX told the committee what they have to do. Mm-hmm. There are no specs.
There are no sweetheart deals.
There are no sweetheart deals. It creates a committee to say, come up with something that doesn't use QR codes. So when James Magazine has something like that in their floating votes section, you didn't read the bill.
Yeah.
Because there are no vendor-specific specifications because the committee hasn't even been created yet.
Right.
And it's their job to create the specifications. So there's all this social media outpouring. Activist / state election board member Sally Grubbs retweeted my article from the Peach Pundit account saying this does nothing to secure elections in 2026, which is demonstrably false if you read the bill. Because what it does is it increases the number of risk-limiting audits to more races.
There you go.
The risk-limiting audit became my baby.
It was part of my campaign 2018 when I ran for Secretary of State, and Scott actually got it into bills.
I put it into law. It's my baby. And I'm watching it. I wrote in the article, I feel like I'm watching my baby grow up, get a master's degree, and go out and do meaningful work. I'm so proud of my baby. I love the risk limiting audit because what it does.
We're the original Georgia election nerds, Scott,
yeah,
because we wanted risk limiting audits.
Yeah, I mean, these folks they come at me in tweeting and retweeting the article with all these false claims, like I'm not prepared to answer what their attack is. Like, I've been working on this in 2016. Where have you been, Johnny come lately? David Cross, you just got here, bud. You think I'm happy that we're delaying what I've been working on since 2016? You think I'm happy about that? No, I'm not happy about it.
Yeah.
But I also know how government works.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm asking a question I don't know the answer to. Were they begging and pleading the legislature to fund the call for getting rid of the QR codes? I don't.
They're not clear on what or how to implement that. My favorite criticism is, well, SB 189 is the law. They just need to follow the law. You know what the law-making branch of the government does? They make law.
Right.
They change law. Like that one makes no sense to me. Oh, they just need to follow the law. I think I heard Janelle King say that at a state election board meeting a couple months ago. It makes no sense at all.
Yeah.
You can't just follow this law because we have a mismatch between what the equipment can do and what the law requires. So we have to fix that. And the only responsible way to do it is to extend the timeline. I'm not happy about that.
Right.
I posted a video in response to David Cross today from a committee hearing from a decade ago where I was saying, we need to do hand-marked paper ballots because that's what the cybersecurity experts are telling us. After he questioned whether or not I've been listening or have access to cybersecurity experts. Like, dude, I'm here. I've been here. Like, you just got here. Come in the water. It's just fine. So that's the reason, and that's what the bill does. Let me make sure I hit all the highlights. Creates the committee, pushes the date out, ups the number of audits. Those are the big three things. So, and I also, in my article, post to my day jobs report that I wrote, which it took me months to do because of the research of finding. And basically what it does is it takes the Halderman report. If you're an election integrity nerd, you know what I'm talking about here. If you're not, go read the report.
Yeah.
The Halderman report, the MITRE report, and the CISA advisory on the current status of our machines, compares and contrasts them. And then the research is, what do we do to mitigate the risks of each of the identified vulnerabilities?
Right.
Super nerdy. And I showed it to some academics and they said, you need to dumb this down. I tried. It's gone through, I don't know, a dozen revisions, but it had to get out. And so it's still written at a pretty high level.
Right.
But the bottom line is that Georgia election process that we have in place today is not perfect. And there are rooms for improvement that we can put in place by rule.
Yeah.
We don't need laws passed. There are things the state election board can be doing that was perfectly within their purview. I know this because I'm the guy who sued the state over they're illegal and unconstitutional rulemaking, and I know where the boundaries are. And I'm telling you, this fits within the boundaries that the state Supreme Court set for the state election board when it comes to making rules. There are things they can be doing to address some of the concerns for 2026. And then the legislature increasing the number of audits is specifically one of the things that the CISA advisory recommends.
Right.
So they are doing something about it. This narrative that they're not doing anything for 2026 is demonstrably false if you read the bill.
Right.
And so many of these people who are coming at me on Twitter right now, it's very obvious they haven't read the bill.
Or they didn't get past the line that said, in 2028, we shall do such and such, right?
Right. Well, in 2028, it goes away. And so the QR code goes away.
Yeah.
Like, that's the one spec that's in the bill is we can't use, whatever the system is, you can't use QR codes or barcodes to tabulate the ballots.
Right.
And that makes sense.
Yep.
And it's something I've been working on for a decade. And I'm tired of saying it. I've been here. I'm the only Republican that voted against the Dominion voting machine bill. But
I wasn't there, so I didn't.
I guess they haven't let it soak in yet that I'm on their side on this. But this is the speed of government, man. Max is doing a great job. You know, I know Max gets mad at me sometimes. And he's taking some heat from these folks right now.
Yeah.
One of them went so
far
him a
break
to say, in response, I'm going to read one. This is from the Georgia Independent. Max Burns is going to mess around and lose his election this November, but a no-name Democrat that nearly beat him last time. I'm reading that word for word, so if it doesn't sound proper English, there you go. The problem now, she's grown her social media following. That is right. And so
social media followings don't vote.
No, Twitter's not a real place. So I retweeted it and I said, I'm bookmarking this so we can point back to this in November as an example of the histrionic minority point of view. These bullies haven't read the bill, don't understand what it does, and are propagating a false narrative for an apparent grift. And then longtime poster to the blog, Lauren Collins, pointed out that Max Burns got over 60% of the vote last time and did not nearly lose.
Yeah, that's not close.
So yeah, that's the bill. That's the reason we're there.
Now, right, so where does it stand in the process, Scott?
It passed out of committee. Now the Democrats objected.
Senate committee, right?
Yeah, at Senate Ethics. I thought it was weird they didn't have public comment. They had a lot of debate among themselves. Max acquitted himself well presenting the legislation. I do think there was one point he could have made a little bit stronger, and that was when the Democrats started to object to the fact that they don't have representation of appointments. Like they want Democrats to be making appointments to the commission. I'm sympathetic to that.
Yeah.
I also know at this point in time, it's been a carefully negotiated piece of legislation in order to get to the floor for a vote, and it has to pass. It has to. It's the must pass. Like, they're not going anywhere if this doesn't get done.
Right.
But I'm sympathetic to the argument of Jim's like, hey, can we get somebody that's got a D next to their name that can appoint to the commission? There's an analog for this. Again, it's a committee. So the analog is the Committee on Assignments. Your committee assignment, if you're a Democrat today, your committee assignments are made by Republicans.
Yep.
It doesn't mean you don't get committees.
Right.
The Democrats who are on the ethics committee in the Senate were put there by Republicans.
Right.
It doesn't mean that they're not going to have Democrats appointed by Republicans to the committee.
Right.
I'm sympathetic again to the argument. You can make it clearer that it's required, but it might be another thing for them to argue over.
Right. And sometimes it's spelled out as, the lieutenant governor or the speaker, whoever.
Right.
And we'll make X number of appointments, and so Y number have to be from the minority party.
Right.
So maybe that's a compromise that.
Right. But then you're looking at amending the bill.
Yeah.
Or
which the Senate can do on the floor.
No. Election bills in the Senate are engrossed automatically.
Okay. So it'd have to happen in House committee, and then you'd have to have an agree in the Senate.
Right. And I don't look. The Democrats should be part of this conversation.
Yes.
If you want to avoid this type of criticism, it doesn't hurt you any to allow the minority party to make some appointments. You don't have to get close to 50-50 even.
Right.
Being in the majority has its perks.
Right.
Winning more elections than losing helps in these situations. But, for the Democrats who are so concerned that they're not going to have anybody with a D next to their name on that committee, look at the makeup of every committee in the Senate and the House.
Right.
There are Democrats and Republicans on every single one of them.
Right.
There is no committee that is uniparty.
Right.
So I understand the concern. I think it's overblown, considering the importance of having to have a workable solution within the next 12 days.
Right.
What you didn't hear us talk about in this special session is redistricting.
Right.
The studied listener to Peach Pundit Podcast will have heard us last week tell you that we were hearing they're not going to take up redistricting.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, I was at a campaign fundraiser for Rob Ackerson last Monday night. So it'll be 2 weeks ago, this coming Monday, which in all hopes may be the last day or close to the last day of the legislative special session, where I told Greg Bluestein, I'm hearing we're not going to have a redistricting bill. And he's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah. Like I heard it from senators. I heard it from House members. I heard it from, place House members and rank and file members.
Mm-hmm.
We've known this for quite some time now. Patricia Murphy's tweeting, AJC with the scoop this week after telling me you don't listen to the Peach Pundit Podcast without telling me you don't listen to the Peach Pundit Podcast. Yeah, Buzz.
What was funny was, I forget which day it was. It was a report in the AJC. The new maps will eliminate 2 congressional Democrats. The next day, we're hearing they're not going to bring the maps. And then the special session started, and there's letters from the Larry Walker and Speaker Burns saying, Governor Kemp, we're not going to do this.
And they cited, that they don't have enough time to get all the people that would be impacted to come and speak. And it's a special session. They were all running their own campaigns. There were wildfires. There were natural disasters in Georgia. Everybody was busy doing other stuff. So here's my question. I called this a bad idea when Governor Kemp. Why did he add it?
I don't know. It's puzzled me since day one. I thought, well, he's just tossing a little red meat out there for the MAGA crowd who were foaming at the mouth about this all over the country. We must. People were so, pause the election. We have to pause the election.
Yeah. I think Josh McCoon maybe even tweeted something like we would be within our rights to do that.
Yeah.
Comparing us to other states that were actually under a court order. Like our case is still pending.
Right.
In front of the court.
We're not under a court order
to redraw the maps. And I don't know that they got a court win, which allowed them to pause their situation because why should we have an election when the court has said we don't have to have this election?
Right.
That's a different argument than ours is still pending in federal court.
Right.
So we're going to jump the gun and act like we won.
Right.
And the other part of this too is a lot of the activists are acting like this is for 2026 and it's not.
Right. It's not.
The call was limited for 2028 and beyond.
Right.
So it would not change anything about the makeup of the minority in Congress this year from Georgia.
Right.
Because it wouldn't take effect in time.
Yep.
And the reason for that, again, is because we've already had our primaries.
Right.
So you can't, we don't like the primaries, time out.
The primaries were underway when the Supreme Court made its ruling.
Right. Early ballots had gone out. Ballots had been cast when Calais came out. So again, the speed of government, it's not what you want. Maybe you're not happy about it, but don't give Republicans a hard time over it because this is how government works. And if we violate these norms now, it will be used against us if we're in the minority
Right.
If you want to speed up us becoming the minority, continue to beat the drum saying we should do redistricting right now during this special session.
Right.
And that's the political reality. We saw a massive, the moment Brian Kemp added redistricting to the special session, and the media will have you believe they were only going to be doing, we had Niles Francis here as a guest from the blue side of the aisle as a pundit.
Yeah.
He was tweeting, why are we even having a special session if we're not doing redistricting? And I tweeted back at him because it wasn't the reason for the special session.
Yeah, exactly. And they absolutely, Democrats, at least here in Gwinnett, absolutely use that as something to motivate their voters.
Yes. And in a year where Donald Trump's approval rating has continued to slip, and we're heading into midterms, which historically are bad for the administration in power and their grasp on Congress, it is asking for us to lose congressional seats, state house seats. I still don't think you'd lose many Senate seats. Maybe Sean Stills could be lost.
Yeah. He's the closest to a swing seat in the Senate.
Right. So you don't want to give the Democrats the motivation to show up.
Right.
That's why I thought it was a bonehead move on behalf, for those who think I don't ever criticize Brian Kemp, here you go. I thought it was a bonehead move to add it. So the question for me became, why did he add it? And I have a theory.
Go.
He added it before Donald Trump endorsed Mike Collins.
True.
And I know there was a huge push to either keep Trump out from endorsing, which we obviously know later would not happen.
Right.
Or to get him to get Donald Trump to see Mike as a damaged candidate for all the other reasons that we've talked on this podcast and others.
Right.
And Dooley has the better shot at beating Ossoff. And this is the Kemp campaign speaking to the White House.
Right.
So would you please endorse Derek Dooley?
Yeah.
And if it will sweeten the pot, I'll add redistricting to the special session. That's my theory. I think it was something that was offered to the president to try to help. Maybe I'm jaded. Maybe I'm cynical. But I think I think it comes down to that. I can see no other logical reason why this governor, who time and time again refused to call a special session to overturn the election, defended the current election system from attacks, had the expertise as the former Secretary of State to make that case, has stuck to the Constitution even when it wasn't popular and even when his own party was attacking him, a la keeping the state open during COVID, only closing down certain things, getting the state reopened early. I mean, there were conservative outlets that were calling Brian Kemp bloodthirsty for that.
Right.
This governor has stood up time and time again for the right thing. So for him to add this at the last second as an add-on, it was tacked on.
Yes.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
It seems out of character. But here's the other reality, right? Brian Kemp doesn't have another legislative session that he has to bully the legislature around. So it doesn't cost him anything to add it. The big gain would have been, maybe I can get Trump to endorse my guy.
Yes. That makes a lot of sense. We'll never know, but it's fun that's what we do here. Wild speculation.
It is admittedly wild speculation. Nobody else, I'll be very clear, because there are a lot of people who talk to me and they give me ideas or they give me insights. This is another example of the time when I came up with the idea that Brad Raffensperger should run for U.S. Senate, and everybody was like, who have you been talking to? And it turned out that they were actually talking about Brad Raffensperger. I made it up. It was just something I looked. I didn't make it up per se as much as just looking at the landscape and seeing, well, if I take this puzzle piece and move it over here, it fits better.
Yeah. Sometimes we come up with crazy ideas all on our own.
And that's a crazy idea that I made up out of whole cloth, based upon what I'm seeing, knowing what I know of the players involved. These different puzzle pieces fitting together.
Yeah,
it makes most sense to me. Your mileage may vary. Do you have a theory why he added it?
No, I'm stumped.
Yeah.
So
that's Buzz is wiser than I am.
I'll second your theory.
Okay. Last topic. you and I both served under Nathan Deal.
Mm-hmm.
Nathan Deal did a lot of good things.
Yep.
It was not easy to serve as a legislator under Nathan Deal. Would you agree or disagree?
It wasn't too bad.
What legislature did you serve in, dude? I will never forget. Now, I have made my peace, but this is a story.
I never got crosswise with them. There was I can't even remember what the issue was. There was one.
You don't know you were crosswise with them, but you were, because I got up and walked out of a GOP President's Day dinner because he called us out, you and me and all of our other little band.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Because of the yeah. Okay.
See,
fine.
Buzz is so happy because he forgets all the bad stuff. He just focuses on the positive.
Sure. The transportation tax credit. Yeah. He called us out about that.
And it wasn't just a tax. No. There was a bill that would have renamed the Technical College System of Georgia.
Yeah.
And every president of the Technical College System of Georgia, including a bunch who had retired and moved on, sent us a letter saying, this is silly, don't do this.
Yes.
And a bunch of us voted no.
Right.
He's at the President's Day dinner complaining about this little group of yahoos in the House. That's you, Buzz. That was me. That was you, who was always voting against the governor's initiatives. I got up and walked out of the dinner.
Yeah, but he didn't punish anybody. He just called us yahoos.
What?
So what?
He didn't punish anybody. Okay, here's again.
I mean, over that, he didn't punish us over that.
It was cumulative, because when he was up for re-election, I had a specific type of following when I was in office.
Mm-hmm.
I had built my own support base, and they didn't love themselves some Nathan Deal.
Mm-hmm.
I was of a different brand of Republican than Nathan Deal was. This is just the honest truth. And I wanted Nathan Deal to stay in power because he would have been better than Jason Carter.
Yeah.
And as a good member of the Republican Party, I offered to reach out to my support base on behalf of the governor, and it earned me a trip to the principal's office. Me and another member.
Which principal?
He has red hair. I have made my peace with this guy. We are friends now. Okay? I'm not trying to relitigate this, but I'm just giving you an example of what it was like for somebody like me, who was and honestly, like Buzz, who's just too happy and optimistic to remember the bad stuff. I got called in and got lectured on my vote against HB 170. At the time, that was a transportation bill that increased the gas tax.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that tax has been suspended so many times.
Yeah.
Because we don't actually need the money. We can fund it through other sources. And that was my argument at the time. But it's been suspended. And every time it gets suspended, oh, yeah, by the way, the special session this year includes in the call ratifying yet another suspension of the gas tax that the governor
A new one?
Yes, it's in the call.
Okay.
So
they did suspend. The suspension ended June 2nd. Are they going to reimpose it?
It's in the call.
Okay.
To ratify.
Okay.
So every time it gets suspended, I'm like, yeah, I cast the right vote. But I took so much heat for it.
Yeah.
For voting no.
It cost me support.
Yes. When you ran for Secretary of State.
Ran for Secretary of State. Yeah. I'm not going to say it didn't cost me the election, but it cost me a heck of a lot of support. Business community here in Gwinnett County has never been fans of mine.
And basically the gist of that meeting was to explain myself. Why are you supporting the governor in this general election? Duh. Like, that's a dumb question. But why are you supporting him when you won't vote for his bills? So I do vote. I vote for a lot of his bills.
Right.
Well, you didn't vote for 170. You didn't vote for this technical college. Are you seriously having this conversation right now? I'm trying to help. And I'm being punished. And it was hard for guys like me. Buzz has a different memory. But I'm bringing the receipts. And so I know from my experience, having served under Nathan Deal and under Brian Kemp, having served under David Ralston, and having worked in politics in Georgia and policy under Speaker Burns, that there are multiple ways to govern, multiple styles. and this is what I'm trying to say. I tell you those stories to illustrate something I think is really important. There are right now maybe some temptations to return to the style of Nathan Deal and David Ralston because Brian Kemp is going away. His style has not been like that.
No. Rarely twists arm. And I've never seen him
he
any
did for
public evidence of
he twisted arms for the tort reform.
I said rarely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are some examples.
I don't know that he has. I don't know that we can. Well, very, very few times that he then publicly seek retribution.
No,
on a legislator who ended up not voting for something that he wanted. Nobody. He wasn't out there trying to take people out because they didn't vote for tort reform, for his tort reform bill, for example.
Well, he might have threatened that. I seem to remember he did,
but I don't. Did he follow up on?
But no.
Anyway, yes, rare. The point is, it's very rare.
Right. And we had some major bills. The heartbeat bill passed with us, where there were Republicans who voted no on a cornerstone issue for the Republican Party.
And Brian Kemp worked hard to get that bill across the finish line because there were a lot of others who did not want to vote for it, but did after.
And the people
Kemp
who voted
persuaded
no
them
on that bill under Governor Kemp are still in the legislature and they're still getting bills passed. And this is where, this is the whole topic right here in a nutshell.
Yep.
It is so much better under the John Burns, Brian Kemp model of leadership.
And frankly, Burt Jones. Burt was not, there were, a few things.
I mean, back in those days, the rules chairman, Jeff Mullis, if you voted no on a bill that he liked, he would print out the House voting record in a giant poster and put it in front of his office and say, if you're highlighted in yellow, don't come in my office with the no votes.
And he wasn't joking around. He joked around a lot. He was not joking about that.
He was not joking about that. Do not come in my office if you voted no on this bill. And the poster would be like 2 feet wide and 3 feet tall.
Yes.
And it was just the voting record. And every no vote would be highlighted. Now, the one that he really got hyped on that year that he started doing that was fireworks.
Yes.
And I had a fireworks bill myself. So of course I was second sponsor of the bill that passed.
And I voted.
I didn't get punished by Mullis. But that style of retribution politics needs to stay dead.
Yes. It's dead now. It needs to stay dead.
It is dead.
Totally agree.
It needs to stay dead.
Right.
Because here's the other thing that Nathan Deal has as an advantage that Rick Jackson as governor won't have. I was the 118th member to get elected to the caucus in the House.
Yep.
Right behind me was David Stover at 119. That was the high water mark for power of the Republican caucus.
Yep.
How many will they have this year, Buzz?
They're 99 right now. If they hold on to all of those and pick up the former Weed Hour seat, that put them at 100. Right?
Right.
Or no, they're 98. That'll put them back at 99.
If you're so busy punishing people, then retribution works both ways.
Yeah.
There's going to be a time you're going to need every single Republican on a bill. And if you're too busy, like I'm telling you, let it stay dead. I was on the phone saying with somebody and I was trying to make this case. Please don't let it go back to the way it was.
Yes, absolutely. Brian Kemp and John Burns particularly have proven you can get a heck of a lot done by loving on people, especially John Burns.
Yes.
You get a heck of a lot done by just you can develop a lot of loyalty by showing loyalty. And
there are members of the House who supported Barry Fleming for Speaker who have become chairman under John Burns, and that would never have happened in the first era of my political career.
Yep.
Wouldn't have happened.
Nope.
And it doesn't mean that those guys now are always with the Speaker. But the Speaker has earned a lot of grace with those guys.
Yes. And most importantly, when John Burns needs those guys, they have his back because they know that John Burns has my back when I need it. Right?
So Yeah, there are a lot of people in the legislature who were with Burt Jones. If you're in the Jackson camp, I know that the desire to go get your pound of flesh and pint of blood from those members must be very great right now. And you might be thinking, oh, we'll just bide our time. Bury the thought.
Yeah.
Kill it with fire.
Yep.
Spread its ashes.
Yep.
Don't let it happen, please. That's my closing plea.
Yeah, I'm with you. I endorse that message 110% because it's more effective, honestly. It's more effective to govern in the style of Brian Kemp and John Burns. It's more effective.
We warned you this was going to be a supersized episode. Did you have anything else you wanted to add? Now we're past the 2-hour mark.
US 1-2-0. So there you go.
In the time that it took us to do this podcast, they played a whole soccer match in the World Cup. Holy cow. This is the time of the podcast where we thank our Patreons for voluntarily reaching into their pocket by heading on over to patreon.com/peachpundit. If you sign up just starting at the $5 tier, you definitely get access to our little Signal chat, which also has been very active this last week. Come be part of the growing community of Peach Pundit supporters. Like, subscribe, recommend to a friend. These are the folks who have already done that. We'll add you to this list. Adam Pethel, Tony Western, Friends and Americans for Prosperity, Amy Davis, several anonymous Patreons, including one who wants you to learn more about the Alzheimer's Association. Deep breath. Bethany Ballard, Bill Werkeiser, Bo Brennan, Brittany Ellison, Colin Martin, Courtney Cothran, Daniel Shaver, Donald Kirkland, Elizabeth Clare, Emmanuel Hernandez, Frank Russo, Gabe Hartwig, Jeff Cobble, Greer Howard, Hank Burnham, Harrison Edwards, Jacqueline Harn, Jason Bankston, John Vestal, Jordan Reed, JT Marshburn, Justin Wright. Welcome to the club, Katie Cagle-Cook.
Yeah.
Ken Pullen, Kenyatta Mitchell, Lawton Sack, Mark Pettit, Merv Waldrop, Mike Buchert, Natasha Bennett, Randall Trammell, Reed Powell, Robert Mabry, Robert Lee, and our friends at Leasix Media. Robert Pruitt, Ron Daniels, Ryan Graham, Ryan Purvis, Sam Thomas, Sergio Ortega, Shannon Ferguson, Skylar Aiken, Stuart Wilkinson, Terry Fye, and Whitney Griggs. Thank you for listening to Peach Pundit the podcast. My name is Scott Turner. That is Buzz Brockway. It's owned, published, and whatever else by me. So blame me for everything. All the music you hear is original by Jason Pye. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time.
Go Jackets.